I'm going to go with the Celtics here. This is tricky because there's continuity here in a way with you've still got Jaylen Brown around. This could be like the Jaylen Brown breakout season. It really should be. And so it's funny to hear a lot of analysts say, like, oh, the Celtics are cooked without Jason
I just
Tatum.
think Jalen Brunson, I think, is still underrated to me as a star in this league. I think the question is health. I think the question, can this team remain healthy in the playoffs through the grind, right? Can they become a dominant force where they're not pushed into a 7-game series every single round? By the time they get to the finals, they're just depleted. And so I think that's my main issue with it. I think the Knicks will be able to kind of rest their guys and I think still be able to pull off wins throughout the regular season. I guess my question is, in terms of them being a championship contender, can they remain? I mean, if you take a look from The Athletic, the Bulls have won 39, 39, and 40 the past 3 seasons, finishing ninth, and 10th in the East. No team in history has won between 38 and 40 games for 4 straight seasons. The Athletic says, yet the Bulls feel preordained. And I agree. They're just mediocre. I feel like they play great. They play a lot of the elite teams. They're going to play them well. It's going to be great. They're a great league pass.
We are a couple hundred subscribers away from our next YouTube subscriber goal. So if you have a friend who might be interested in this podcast, please send them our way. Please have them subscribe. Helps the show out a ton. And as always, just thank you for all the new subscribers lately. And for those of you who have been with us for years and years, we just really appreciate all the support. And it's awesome to see the show continue to grow and to have more conversations in the comments of our videos and on social media with you all. So really just want to say thank you and appreciate that. So let's move into it, Justin. And, before we get into our main topic, I'll also add a teaser that for the end of the show here, it's going to be Matt's Decision 1.0. All right. So I want to put that there. We're gonna bookmark it. We're gonna put a pin in it. We're gonna come back to that. So
Guaranteed
watch,
to be better than LeBron's. So.
Listen all the way through, and you're gonna get My Decision 1.0. All right. So it doesn't. I can say it doesn't have anything to do with the beverage. So I'll give you that. All right. Before we get into really our intended topic today of the Eastern Conference predictions, Justin, we crowned a new WNBA champion, kind of a new champion, but a familiar champion. So Justin, I'll just pass it to you. And if you'd like to just kind of talk about that, summarize it, give us any of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the Aces proved that you can never count out a perennial contender.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Aces earlier this season, kind of, wondering what's going to happen. They were struggling. Is Becky Hammon out? They win the title. So pretty amazing.
Quite a chain of events. Yeah.
Shout out to the Mercury. Just an unbelievable turnaround too with the new roster. Just it's such a great story that they went through as well. But Aces come out on top. This is their 3rd title in 4 years. Asia Wilson, incredible. I was talking to Brennan Vogt, and that preview is up of the Denver Nuggets season. I think Asia Wilson and Nikola Jokic, are 2 of the most disrespected athletes of this decade.
Really?
Just in terms, I think so. In terms of resume, I mean, look what Asia Wilson was able to do. I mean, she's multiple-time MVP winner, the only player in WNBA history to win MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Finals MVP in the same season. And yet, she's not talked in terms of being an elite sports star. So she's averaged 28 points, 11 rebounds. And off air, you were talking about that iconic shot to win, I believe, Game 3. Right? Incredible. What else do you want her to do? She has charisma. I mean, she's dominant. She's easily marketable. She has her own shoe. I mean, what else is there? So I think that's a phenomenal turnaround for the Aces. Such an elite franchise, too. And I think they're well run. Now the attention turns into these CBA negotiations, which expire on Halloween. We have the whole mess with Kathy Engelberg, which we'll get into probably on future episodes. I can't wait just to dive into that with not only you and Alan, but also our insiders too. But focus on the positive today with the Las Vegas Aces winning the WNBA title.
I have to say, Justin, you must feel Dashboard Confessional vindicated with everything coming out about Kathy Engelbert. Not that
No.
you were wishing any ill, certainly. I know that, but yeah, a lot of things have come to a head. We'll table that as well.
Totally.
I wanted to just comment in terms of Asia Wilson and her legacy. I do see a lot of people, and especially people that cover the league, that know more a lot about it than I do, commenting that kind of the GOAT WNBA argument is at least up in the air, or maybe even the page has turned to Asia Wilson when you look at all that she's accomplished. And as you mentioned, this last 4-year span, of course, she's racking up points and rebounds and all kinds of stats. But also just the amount of titles that she's pulling in. You have to say the Aces, I would think, are a dynasty at this point. 3 titles in 4 years. That's amazing. So I see what you're saying in terms of mainstream stardom. Maybe there's a hold off there, and maybe that's a reflection of where the league is right now. I don't know. I don't want to get too much into that, but I do see a lot of credit given to her as the GOAT of the WNBA, people are starting to say.
Well, people that follow the sport, yeah, they know what they're talking about. We have plenty of them on our show. I just think in terms of mainstream culpability, I just think in terms of stars of the league, your casual sports fans, they think of the incoming rookie class, the names Angel Reese, Kayla Clark, Cameron Brink, Paige Beckers, so on. And I just, Asia Wilson's the clear dominant player in this league. And also Becky Hammon, the coach of this team. I mean, what's going to be her future? She's won 3 titles in 4 years. And whenever there's a coaching vacancy, I don't see her name being brought up. So I find that very fascinating too, if Becky Hammon's going to be in this league for a long time, just because I feel like she's accomplished everything at this point.
That's an interesting thought. It's kind of, do you stay there and be, her mentor, Coach Popovich, or one of her mentors anyway? Do you be the Coach Popovich of the Aces, or do you take that step up? That's interesting. I'd be kind of surprised, at least like this off season, if a lot changes there. I think you try and repeat if you can. You try and build on this dynasty if you can, but you're right. In professional sports, things have a tendency to change, especially in the modern era, very, very quickly. But it seems like what the Aces proved this year is that if you have Asia Wilson, you have a great shot, regardless of how your season starts. Because all year it was the Lynx, the Liberty looking super strong, and they were. And then things just changed in the playoffs. The Mercury, I think you could argue, out-toughed the Lynx. There's a lot of controversy there, but I do think the Mercury, I was fine with them going to the finals. I have no issue with that. Sometimes series play out that way. We've seen it in the NBA where a team just kind of arm wrestles you into submission. Maybe the Mercury weren't the better team. Maybe they weren't the more talented team. Of course, the Lynx with Fee, she's arguably the best player in the league right now, right there with Asia Wilson. But you got to win the games. You gotta get there. So I think, and I know we got a lot to get to, so I don't want to dwell on it too much. I'll throw to you one more time. I'll end my thoughts here. But what's good about this postseason, like you have the Fever going a long way. You have the Mercury, who are unexpected to get as far as they did. You have the Lynx are going to be extra hungry next year and still, I'm assuming, very, very talented and ready to roll. And the Aces, can they build on this dynasty? You're seeing, even compared to what we talked about at the beginning of this WNBA season, there's even more narratives building on top of that, which I think is nothing but positive for the league itself.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that talking to our insiders is they have always claimed that the majority of the league's going to be free agents. And you can kind of add somewhat Angel Reese to that, just in terms of her unhappiness with the Chicago Skies. So it's going to be very interesting to see where these players go and if they stay in these relatively good situations. And I have to say also these new franchises, like with the Valkyries, I mean, they have done a phenomenal job in like a lot of these incoming teams. So we can talk about the WNBA. I'm sure we'll get into it in future Into Labs. I'll kind of hold my thoughts out for now, but expecting a very exciting offseason and on Rival 2. So just stay tuned because things are going to get more interesting in the W, that's for sure, and women's basketball as a whole.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, we got to see if there's a season next year and all that stuff too that comes into play. Would be a shame if there wasn't, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, let's move forward because like you said, there's plenty we could talk about there. We will definitely address a lot of that in future episodes, but let's turn the page and kind of start previewing the upcoming NBA season. And we're going to do that in a big way today with the Eastern Conference. Justin, your suggestion, which I think is a good one, let's have 3 categories of 5 teams. We're going to start with our bottom 5 teams, the bottom feeders. We're going to have the play-in to maybe the lower guarantee playoff teams. And then we're going to have our contenders. And there might not even be 5 legitimate contenders in the East. But you know what? With how injuries go in the league and things like that, things can change in a hurry, as we saw. So I'm going to throw to you for your first pick here. This is going to be the ultimate bottom feeder of the East. Who do you think is finishing at 15th in the East?
I got the Washington Wizards. So ESPN projected wins is about 14.2.
Wow.
They say that after shout out to ESPN for these previews. I mean, just reading out some predictions around different publications, The Athletic, ESPN, and so on. So ESPN said after trading away veterans at the deadline, and again this past summer, Washington doesn't have a single player who rates in the league's top 130. And it's interesting because John Hollinger of The Athletic says that with veterans like Chris McCollum, Chris Middleton, and Corey Crispert, Washington's roster will be quite bad, which I kind of disagree with. I mean, they got a couple of veterans and some young players. So if you take a look at just the offseason real quickly, they re-signed Anthony Gill. They re-signed Chris Middleton. They get Marvin Bagley III, Dylan Jones. I'm not going to read all these in the draft. Trey Johnson, Will Riley. I mean, they get a lot of young players, as not to mention last year as well. So I don't think this is going to be an awful team. I just think Washington hasn't been well run. I think that's a lot of my picks is less about the rosters and more about putting them together because I don't think the Wizards are like this atrocity team in the league. I think they got a lot of talent, and I think they're going to compete with a lot of teams, even in the West. I just don't think they're going to be able to pull it together. So it's very interesting because every time I think of a bad team, the Rockets, your team comes to mind. You and Alan's team comes to mind. Because I feel like there's a lot of teams with a lot of picks, a lot of young talent. Will they be able to put it together like the Rockets and the Pistons? So I think with the Wizards, they are going to be the worst team. I would say at least in the East, if not the entire league. But I don't think in terms of if you put them on League Pass, they're going to be terrible to watch and see what happens.
Yeah. All I heard was you say, every time I think of a bad team, I think of the Rockets. No, I'm just kidding. No, I know what you mean. So I would disagree with ESPN as well. I actually don't have the Wizards 15th. Some of the things you touched on are points that I agree with, and the Wizards are a franchise that have shown in their history that they will swing for the fences early. They will try and make weird pushes just to get the 8th seed in the playoffs in the past. Like you remember that weird Russell Westbrook year. This might be a year where Washington moves some of those assets a little bit early and tries to get into a low playoff seed. Now, I still have Washington as a bottom feeder, no doubt, but I do think they are going to win more than 20 games, and it might just be right on the fringe. But my 15th team, and we can talk about them because my 14th team is the Wizards. Spoiler. But let's talk about the Nets real quick. 15th for me is the Nets. They traded for Michael Porter Jr. They have, I like to look at the draft picks, right? I like to look at what are we doing here, and do you want to win right now, or is this a tanking season? This is a tanking season for the Nets. I have almost no doubt. I mean, MPJ is going to be their primary or secondary scorer. at minimum. And would anyone be surprised if, he has, I mean, God forbid, I don't want the guy to be injured. I wish him all the success in the world. But if they need to tank, I mean, you could see a scenario where, oh, we need to do some load management with MPJ or maybe some other players on this roster as well to get there. And I believe their first round pick is top 8 protected. So they are incentivized to stay in the lottery. And I just see that happening. I also think the talent just kind of took a little step back. And again, they traded to get their picks back. And I think they want to keep them and maximize them. There's huge value in that. So I do think the Nets, I would almost lock in them being a bottom 3 team. I just went ahead to be interesting and put them all the way at the bottom, but we'll see what happens. So I've got Nets at 15, Wizards at 14. Justin, you had Wizards at 15, which I think is reasonable. Who do you have at 14?
Yeah, we're mostly aligned here. I have the Nets at 14.
Okay.
And that's a projected wins at 17.6. You mentioned the roster, so just in the interest of time, I won't go too much into it. I will say with Michael Porter Jr., I wasn't the biggest fan of his, and I don't really like his off the court antics. And just based on what I heard at Nuggets Media Day and just seeing stuff on social media in terms of Jokic being like kind of the father to him a little bit. Well, he was in Denver. I don't know how much you can count on him to be a franchise player without somebody who's going to rein him in. And I just feel like in Brooklyn, he's kind of going to get a lot more playing time, which is good, but he's kind of going to be without any reins on him to really pull out a top potential of himself. So that's where my concern comes in. So, yeah, 14. It's kind of tomato at this point. But the Nets, I will say, they always seem to exceed expectations. So that's something to watch as well. They're kind of one of those teams you don't really, or them in the Heat. I feel like I always kind of underrank them, and then they always kind of surprise me. That wouldn't be shocking to see them kind of somewhat exceed expectations, but I still have him at the 14th position.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in alignment there. Also, just to add to what you said with MPJ, I mean, is he the type of player with his history that more playing time, more reps is going to be a good thing for him? I mean, just thinking about his history of injuries and things like that. Again, wishing him all the health in the world, but that sounds like a recipe for disaster if, I assume they're probably not going to be asking him to play like 40 plus minutes a game, but if it gets to that point, I'm a little bit worried about that situation. Moving right along, kind of one of the mainstay teams at the bottom of the East, I'll go ahead and give you my 13th pick. They had 19 wins last season. I do see them winning a few more games than that, maybe even as high as 30 games, just based on, much like the Wizards, bringing in kind of veteran leadership presence, and that's the Charlotte Hornets. They have some talent on this roster, some young talent that they're still developing that has actually looked decent. It's just never been a situation where it translates to wins at this point. And so that's kind of where the veterans that they brought in, maybe leads to some help there. I mean, you've got Connaughton from the Bucks, Mason Plumlee, Spencer Dinwiddie, Colin Sexton. I mean, these are some guys who can contribute. I mean, Sexton, especially on like the scoring and playmaking end. And they have some backup assurance there if LaMelo Ball happens to, get injured or miss some time as has happened in past seasons. So give me the Hornets at 13. Justin, who's your number 13 team?
Yeah, we're aligned. I have the Hornets as well. ESPN has 28.5 projected wins. David Aldridge, former guest of the show, and he posted his quotes on NBA.com, so shout out to them. He said the Hornets are making sure they don't solely depend anymore on Ball, who played his 105 of 246 games the last 3 seasons. Ouch. And by adding Sexton and Dinwiddie to the mix, good strategy. They did draft, I'm going to butcher his name. Is it Knuppel? Is that how you pronounce his name for Duke? Knuppel, right?
Yeah, Knuppel.
Okay, Knuppel. There you go. He was the 4th pick, so that's a kind of a huge risk because Cooper Flag got all of the attention, but that's a high pick for that spot. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. I feel like the Hornets, again, they remind me a lot of the Wizards in terms of a lot of talent, but just usually injuries and other things go wrong for them. And I feel like that fan base is really, or they want a winner. And I think they will support a team that's going to be a factor in the East. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of low key rooting for the Hornets. I don't know. There's something about them. They kind of like this arrogance about them that I think if they catch fire, I think they might be one of the best stories of this upcoming season. But I just don't see it happening.
I'll be honest with you. I'm purely rooting for the Hornets for aesthetic purposes. I just always love their uniforms.
Sure.
And I'll just add to what you said. I'm totally fine with the Knipple pick at number 4. I mean, best pure shooter in the draft for a team that needs a lot of shooting help. And this is a guy who seems like he could be a 40% plus 3-point shooter. You pair that with, LaMelo Ball slashing and kicking. That could lead to a lot of good things, but of course we'll see if that plays out. Seems to also have pretty good size for his position, so hopefully it works out for them. I'm with you. I'd like to see the Hornets in the playoffs at some point again. Go ahead. So we're in agreement on the 13th team there. Just interesting point of fact. The 13th team last year in the East was the Philadelphia 76ers. We will be talking about that team pretty soon here, I'm sure. Or I guess we'll see. Maybe it'll be a little while before we talk about them. But Justin, go ahead, give me your number 12 team on the rankings.
Yeah, won't waste too much time on this team. It got me flustered because I really did not like them at this point, and that's the Toronto Raptors. I don't see, and it's weird because I've seen their projections really be high, and I don't understand their projected wins on ESPN is 40. I think that's a lot. I don't see that happening. In the offseason, they re-signed Jacob Paletti, I think Garrett Temple. I'm gonna butcher this other person's name. Addition Sandro Macchizvili. Honestly, he sounds like a UFC fighter nowadays. They drafted Colin Murray Boyles and Elijah Martin with the 39th pick. And from Fantasy Outlook from RotoWire, they say the team at RotoWire broke down fantasy options for each team in the East, and they broke down the Raptors like this. Looking ahead, the Raptors could come with a much different energy to start the season, especially thanks to the addition of Brandon Ingram. And I think because of that, I believe that is why the Raptors are projected so high. Gives them a major boost on the offensive end, allowing Barnes and RJ Barrett and quickly to provide consistent supplementary scoring. So the Raptors have a good bench. I just don't believe in this team. I really like Scotty Barnes, but just injuries really turn me off, and really I can't get into a team that has a roster of stars that get constantly injured, and that includes the Toronto Raptors. But we'll see. I mean, the East is so wide open, so again, that's what makes it kind of cool this season. I know everybody's running off the East, but if you stay healthy for the rest of the season, it is wide open to make some noise. It's not a situation in which, you could have a great run and you're going to run into these dominant teams that are just going to destroy you in the playoffs. I don't see it that way. I really see with these teams that they can get it together, they can really surprise some people. But with the Toronto Raptors, I don't see that. I have them as well.
Total agreement here. I would be shocked. I would lock in that the Raptors are not going to win 40 games or more this season. At this point in Brandon Ingram's career, is he really going to be someone who is the driving point that leads a team to a playoff surge that would need a pretty big surge? They won 30 games last year. I agree they may win some more games. They may win like 34, maybe even 36 games. I just don't see this team changing all that much with the additions, subtractions that you mentioned there. So, yeah, we don't need to spend any more time on this, really. And I'll just go ahead and give you my number 11 pick with apologies. This team won 39 games last year. You're familiar with them. It's the Chicago Bulls. I have at number 11. They have, I think they've made the correct sort of subtractions to hopefully lead to addition. They had, DeMar DeRozan leave in the offseason last year, and they got Zach LaVine traded finally at your behest, Justin, before the trade deadline hit. And so I think they can begin to grow in the right direction, but there's going to be growing pains. There is less talent on this team than last year, but there is young talent that's up and coming, so they can hopefully build on that. I just don't have enough confidence that I can say I expect them to be a play-in team. So that's why I have them right there on the outside at 11. Justin, if you want to either give thoughts on the Bulls or give me your number 11.
Yeah. I'll tackle the Bulls first. I feel you. I had them in this spot, and then probably my bias, I moved them up one.
Oh, good. Good for you.
So,
Keeping that hope. I love it.
Right. A little bit. And I think I was convinced from The Athletic because of their young roster, which I like. And for what I have been seeing from Kobe White, especially, and Josh Giddey a little bit, but more Kobe White, I like the youth of this team. Problem is that I think they're just kind of mediocre. Like, if you again, I'm going to bring up your Rockets because we talk about them all the time. But when the Rockets were first rebuilding, and I would say, this is during the pandemic, don't you think? Was it around 2020? What's the year when they drafted Sengun? What year is that? Was that?
I think that was 2022 when he started playing, so 2021 when he got drafted, or the end of 2021, I'm pretty sure.
I remember you specifically talking about that roster, like, hey, these guys have a lot of potential to be stars in this league. And the problem with the Bulls is I just don't see Kobe White as a star. He has breakout games, but he's kind of mediocre. Patrick Williams, mediocre. He's 24. Dosumu, Isaac Okoro. It's just, they're very young. I mean, if you take a look from The Athletic, the Bulls have won 39, 39, and 40 the past 3 seasons, finishing ninth, and 10th in the East. No team in history has won between 38 and 40 games for 4 straight seasons. Basically, The Athletic says, yet the Bulls feel preordained. And I agree. They're just mediocre. I feel like they play great. They play a lot of the elite teams. They're going to play them well. It's going to be great. They're a great league pass team because when they play the Knicks, when they play the Lakers, they play the Nuggets, I feel like they're going to give their best. It might pull off some upsets, but it's, I don't know. I always use this analogy. It's kind of like the person that you like, and you remain kind of friends with them, but you'll never be able to get with them just because the chemistry's not right. It's just like, it's just with this team, it's like this chemistry's not right. The good news is for Chicago is that I believe with the younger players, they make great trade assets. So that is where you can maybe turn some of these players into a larger star due to Chicago being a larger market. So that's what I'm hoping for, is that a lot of these guys have more breakout seasons and that they exceed expectations, being in maybe they move up to maybe the 9th or 8th seed or so. And then you might see some free agents become more enticed to play in Chicago because of what they got going there. So that's my hope, rather than them exceeding expectations and making any kind of noise. But we're aligned there. I just think they're just painfully just mediocre overall.
Yeah, that's great points you bring up. And my question, just rhetorically maybe, is who is the highest ceiling player on the Bulls? Is it Josh Giddey? Maybe. Is it their rookie from last year? A name escapes me. My apologies. He's got a lot of fire. I like I like what he brings to the Bulls, but is that enough where the actual talent is going to raise and he can, lead a team? I don't know about that. And I agree with what you said about Kobe White too. That's again another question, like, has he already reached that ceiling or are there more levels to go? To me, I don't know. I think we're getting close to ceilings with some of those players on the Bulls.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of see with less veterans on the team, they might take a backseat and take a dive. But who do you have at number 11 then, Justin, just out of curiosity? Because you said Bulls sound like they're right at 10th.
Yeah.
Who's your number 11 team?
Before I get there real quickly, Matas Bazulis.
Thank you.
Yeah. He made the NBA second. He was named to the NBA All-Rookie second team last year. So, again, a lot of younger talent. I like that. I like the youth. I just think they're just kind of mediocre. Anyways, going to the 11th pick, I got the 76ers.
Oh,
I don't know what they're going to do. And this really concerned me just reading this from ESPN. It says, quote, the optimism around the Sixers is a bit mystifying. I agree. Their roster looks worse on paper with the loss of the key front court contributor, Gershon Yerbasel. And it says, if Joel Embiid is healthy and effective, Philadelphia probably would finish better than 500. I agree. I think this is from The Athletic, actually. And it says here, this is from ESPN, it says, star Joel Embiid was hampered by a left knee injury last season. It was limited to 19 games. 19 games. I mean,
Yeah.
like I think an MVP caliber elite player. He underwent arthroscopic knee surgery in April per ESPN. He said that he's taking recovery day by day. He said, quote, that's not necessarily an expectation. It's more about making sure everything is right and doing everything right and going from there. Obviously, the goal is to play consistently and not to be in the position that we were last year. There's no timetable for Embiid's return. Shams Charania painted a grim outlook. He said, my understanding is even the 76ers don't know exactly when Joel Embiid is going to play, when he's not going to be playing. The reality is his knee issues have been debilitating. He's essentially going to have to master learning how to play through issues, playing thresholds at any given day that just don't know yet. I honestly think the best days of his career is probably over. I just seen this with bigger guys, just with knee injuries. It's just too hard to overcome. Knee and foot. Those are the killer injuries, and I just don't see them overcoming this. Paul George is really inconsistent in terms of his health as well. I just think it's time to turn the page and just move on to a new day at this point. It's unfortunate because I like Joel Embiid. I really like the guy's game, but I just think the injuries have caught up to him, and I think it's going to overall hurt the 76ers.
Yeah, great analysis. I won't add a lot to that. I did put the 76ers at number 10 on my list just because that crosses them into that threshold of play-in team. And you said it. I mean, it's really, are they going to play or are they not going to play? Because if we have this full roster, hypothetically, for 82 games, which, again, Paul George and Joel Embiid, pretty low probability of that, unfortunately. But if this whole roster were playing the whole season, you could make the 76ers a top 5 pick in the East with how wide open it is right now. It's not unreasonable. The question is, who's going to be there? I still believe in Coach Nick Nurse. I don't think he's lost his ability to coach, as much criticism, maybe fairly so, that he's received. But I just think as a coach, you're hampered if you don't know who's going to be on the court for you. So just kind of move forward. I think great analysis. We all know, I mean, what is Joel Embiid going to be able to contribute at this point? And same question for their other max star player, Paul George. You need those guys out on the court to succeed. The question is, will they be there? And it seems very reasonable to doubt that. I still just out of potential that they are there. I felt I had to put them at number 10. I would rather see the Bulls in the play-in than the 76ers. Personally, I'm rooting for your list to be correct over mine. Justin, you said the Bulls are number 10 on your list. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So why don't we move forward? You can go ahead and give us your number 9 pick.
This is going to be controversial because ESPN has projected wins at 45. I'm shocked by this. I understand why, but just with Tyrese Halliburton, I think presumably gone for this season, and Miles Turner being a Milwaukee Buck now, I just don't see this team doing anything. And honestly, thought of putting the Pacers even further back, to be honest. But I had them at number 9. I just think this is kind of a wash season for them. And I think Halliburton was such a crucial piece. And it sucks. I really think Indiana's a great basketball city, but losing Miles Turner is a huge loss for them. So yeah, I just don't see them doing any better. But we'll see. I am low on the Indiana Pacers, but I think I'm in the minority. I think a lot of people have them higher on their list.
We are in exact agreement here.
Oh.
I have the Pacers. I would almost. Well, I guess I can't say lock it in because of the respect I have for Rick Carlisle and that franchise in general. but I have them projected around like 40 wins. I agree with you. I think they are relying on a patchwork job at the guard position, which they have to just with the circumstances. Same thing at the center position, and I just don't think that having, maybe like 3 players rotating in point guard and 3 players rotating in the center position, I don't think that equals Miles Turner that you're now missing and that elite rim protection and even deep shot ability. I think you're missing a lot there. So I just don't see this team going very far. We're aligned on them at number 9, so I'm going to go ahead and give you my number 8 team. This is the team that will never go away. We're always going to fear them. We're always going to think that they have this odd outside shot at winning the NBA title or going to the NBA Finals. I'm sure I've spoiled it by now. Number 8 for me is the Miami Heat. It doesn't seem to make sense that they should be this high on the list, but that speaks to, in part, how elite Coach Spoelstra is, how chaotic the East is and up in the air it is this year. And also there's this looming potential that you would not be 100% floored if they got Giannis at the trade deadline or something big happened for this team. It seems like it's been enough years where usually something big happens for the Heat in free agency or trade-wise at around this stage to pull them back to the top of the Eastern Conference. I wonder if this is going to be a year like that. But regardless, I have them right about 42 wins or so, just above the Pacers at number 8. Justin, if you want to either talk about them or give me your number 8 team if it's different.
No, we're aligned. I think they've been the bane of our existence since our reemergence in 2020. I've been the Heat.
Oh, I love it though. I love that they keep it interesting and
Right.
they keep seeming to defy all odds. I mean, nothing but respect for what they're able to do. I'm sorry, keep going.
I feel like no, I agree, and I think with Spoelstra, that's why. There's rumors. I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. Has not been made official as recording of this podcast that he'll be the new coach for Team USA. So,
oh yeah, well deserved.
Yeah, for sure. Just taking the mantle from Steve Kerr, but ESPN has their projected wins at 40. William Gilroy of The Athletic says the Heat have done a decent job of building the roster while maximizing the limited assets they brought in to the offseason. Turning Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson into Norman Powell was a major win, even if Powell's 32 and looking for a new contract. Some of the other noticeable offseason moves, departures include Kyle Anderson, Haywood Highsmith, Kevin Love, Duncan Robinson, sign and trade. So, yeah, I agree. The Heat's gone through a lot of turmoil, especially with Jimmy Butler. I think they're trying to turn the page, and now this franchise is firmly in Bam Adebayo's hands, along with Tyler Hero. Those two guys are presumably the leaders of this team now. And the Heat, they've always exceeded expectations, and the good news is that they play in a weaker conference, and so, things can break their way, they can make some noise. So, yeah, I just don't believe in them enough to be a shocking team, but yeah, you never know. I think it's always fun to underestimate them, and then they shock us. I think you're right, man. Always kind of makes things interesting. And again, that Heat culture. Again, I think the Hornets are they're aspiring to kind of be that in terms of the swagger that they have. But I can't really put my finger on it, but I think the Heat are kind of the champions of that, and that's their title to lose. So I agree. They're at the number 8 position for me.
Go ahead, give me your number 7. We'll just roll right into it.
This is a team that I think a lot of people are bullish on, and I don't really see it. They're kind of in the Miami Heat category for me, and that's the Atlanta Hawks.
That's 3 in a row for us. I've got them at 7 as well.
Oh,
yep.
ESPN has them at 44.3 wins. They say that the hype is getting heavy for the Hawks, ESPN does, whose offseason was undoubtedly positive, but perhaps not transformative in the short term. And it says here they lost Kobe Buffkin, they lost Clint Capella, Karis LeVert, Paris Mann, Larry Lance Jr., George Niang, and David Roddy. And they got Nicolo Alexander Walker, Luke Kennard, and they got Kristaps Porzingis, which I was really high on, but I just think he's really hurt these days. They got a lot of different draft picks in mind. um, it's tough. I just think with the Hawks, they have a nice young core with Trey Young and Zachary Ricochet. I just don't believe they're gonna, make any moves to the top half of the conference. And also, it's kind of like, what's gonna happen with Trey Young? I mean, we heard rumors of this guy wanting to leave, or they're gonna trade him. I just don't think this is going to be enough to really keep Trey Young as a franchise player for the rest of his career. So, yeah, I'm not really high on the Hawks, but, again, they're kind of similar to the Heat. Those two teams seem to exceed expectations. So, me saying it's probably, who knows, they might be the second seed. I might be just jinxing it. So,
Well, last season, the Hawks finished at number 9 in the East. They had 40 wins. So I don't think it's unreasonable, even for that win projection at around 44, I think is fine. I could see that improvement. I'm just not sure that's going to be enough wins to put you higher than 7th in the East. Like I'll say right now, I don't think we're going to have a 60-win team in the Eastern Conference. I think this conference got a lot weaker at the top end, especially with what happened to the Celtics, and maybe we'll be talking about them soon as well. But so for the Hawks to go to 44 wins, I don't think would be too surprising. I just don't know how much better that really makes them. They had a 40-win season last year. The only thing I'll say in, I guess, opposition to our position on the Hawks is that this is a contract year for Kristaps Porzingis. That doesn't mean that he's going to stay healthy, but you probably remember that season he was on the Wizards.
yes.
It was a contract year, and he was a beast. And if he brings that to Atlanta, they could rise above some other teams if they're all consistently out there. I mean, some nice pieces on this team, but I obviously agree more with you, and I have more questions really about them raising any higher than 44 or 45 wins, and I'm just not sure how much that really elevates them beyond the 7th seed for now. So I alluded to it, Justin. I'll just steamroll right into my 6th pick. I'm going to go with the Celtics here. This is tricky because there's continuity here in a way with, you've still got Jaylen Brown around, and this could be like the Jaylen Brown breakout season. It really should be. And so it's funny to hear a lot of analysts say, like, oh, the Celtics are cooked without Jason Tatum, when analysts have also been saying, maybe not the same ones. I'm not, keeping receipts or anything or trying to put anyone on blast, but this is like what a lot of people have wanted for Jaylen Brown for a long time. Like, you have carte blanche now. You can go off. Let's see how you do as that bona fide 1A option for the team. So I do think I have the Celtics around 46 wins, just with how much that roster has changed. But this team does have high upside potential, and given they have the same coaching and same star power from the Jaylen Brown side, I could see them still being very much a factor in the East. What are your thoughts on, if you want to get into the Celtics right now, or give me your number 6?
I'll give you my number 6 real quick because we're pushing it up against it. I don't have too many thoughts on it, so I have the Bucks at number 6.
That's fair.
A team with turmoil. I have it basically because of Giannis. He's just a phenomenal player. I'm not really sold on the rest of this roster except Miles Turner. So ESPN has to project it at 44.5 wins. So I would love to maybe interview some of our insiders to see what is kind of the mind state of this team. It seems very unstable just in terms of what's going to happen with Giannis possibly being traded. But as long as he's there, he always plays hard. I just don't see him just not just giving up and just, not caring. He's a very hardworking player out there, to say the least. I'm underrating him by saying that. And with Damian Lillard, gone, and just all of that not working out, I do see a chip on his shoulder, regardless of the situation, but I have him in the number 6 position. How about you? Do you want me to continue to talk about the Celtics, or do you want to give your thoughts on the Bucks?
Go ahead, go into the Celtics.
Okay.
I'll talk about the Bucks later.
I'm pretty high on the Celtics for the reason that you said, and that's why I have them at number 5. I just think this is the year for Jaylen Brown. I really like this roster. Believe it or not, with Anthony Simons, I really like him, what he was able to bring in Portland. I think him in Boston, I think he's going to be a nice compliment. And yeah, we've heard all this, right, about Jaylen Brown, about revenge, him being left off Team USA. He's in the shadow of Jason Tatum. There you go, man. And I think he just seems like a very different dude. I think he's going to capitalize on this opportunity, especially kind of a more weaker Eastern Conference. I like the Celtics at number 5. That'll make my dad happy. He's a huge Celtics fan. ESPN has them projected at 45, but I feel you, man. People at The Athletic had him like missing the playoffs, like at the 11th spot, and just kind of just giving up this year, which I don't see that. I see them being in the top half of the league, but we'll see. And also, there's some video going around with Jason Tatum trying to dunk. So,
Yeah.
this dude could be back, quicker than what we thought. So, we'll see what happens. Celtics at number.
Awesome. I think, yeah, that's, I guess part of the reason in principle I put them at number 6 is I don't view them as contenders, like in that category for top 5. But maybe they'll surprise me. I do agree. I think given the financial things that they were trying to do, they made some smart moves out of it. I'll go ahead and give you my number 5, and later on we'll get into some more Bucks talk. But number 5, a team that overachieved last year, got 44 wins and was the number 6 spot. This year I have them increasing to number 5 just based on continuity, Cade Cunningham's development. It's the Pistons. I'm excited to see what this team can do. And they might get more contributions from Ivy this season, and that might be able to propel them a little bit higher offensively. But this is a real try-hard team, kind of like the Orlando Magic are and still will be this season. So I think they win some extra games, even if they're not as talented as their opposition, just because they come in and fight. And so I have to include them as a contender because of where they finished last year and that they have a young core and that they're still continuing to develop. You never know, because the Magic were an example of that, where 2 seasons ago they were like the top of the East for a while and then they fell off. This could be a season where the Pistons fall off, but I don't see that same situation happening. So I'm going to put them right at 5 here. Roughly like 48 wins or so is kind of the range I have them predicted in. Justin, if you want to you gave your number 5. So if you want to move right into number 4 or talk about the Pistons, whatever you want to do.
My 4th team's the Pistons. I really like
Perfect.
the roster. I won't add too much. This is the interest of time, but I just love.
Yeah, we're good.
In terms of Cade Cunningham, Tobias Harris, Azura Thompson. I believe that, again, the framework of, I think the NBA now is taking a young core where they might struggle. OKC is indicative of this, where we have a lot of young players that might, not get the wins that they're accustomed to, but they cultivate that chemistry, and then they rise to prominence within a couple of years. And I think that Pistons are a good example of that. Their projected wins this season with ESPN is 42.6. They do get Duncan Robinson as well, so I think they're going to be a factor in the playoffs. And hopefully it's going to be interesting to see, especially Cade Cunningham, again, in a high-pressure situation. I'm always interested in players that have not been in the playoffs, that have a lot of hype, what happens, because the playoffs is totally different. Like, you'll get to see, is this guy worth a max deal when they play in the playoffs? I mean, that's where you really earn your max money potential. So we'll see what happens, but I have Pistons at 4.
Cool. I'll quickly go. Number 4 for me is the Bucks. The reason I put them up higher, I'll be brief since we talked about them, but them getting Miles Turner signals to me that they're getting back to a defensive identity for that team, which is where their bread and butter was in the past. And I think it may be a case where there's a little bit of addition by subtraction from having Lillard off the roster. They can do a patchwork job here. And if they just have ball control and some defensive intensity, which I think Cole Anthony can bring, Gary Harris, they've added as well. He brings some veteran leadership. It's a little bit dodgy with their roster depth, so there are some real concerns there, and I could see them falling below that. But if Giannis is healthy and good to go, and if they're getting to a defensive identity, I still think in a questionable Eastern Conference, they can be one of those home court teams in the first round of the playoffs. So that's why I have them at number 4. I'll just go ahead and go into number 3 since we've had some similar teams we've touched on here. I've got the Magic here. I'm not ready to put them back in the top 2 again just yet. But of course, the acquisition of Desmond Bane was a huge move of the offseason, and that adds that shooting need that they've so desperately needed for so long. So I'm curious to see how that fits in, and if they can keep the defensive intensity on this team, which I think they will. I think it's just part of their identity as a team. So I have the Magic actually around 52 wins or so, or maybe right around that 50 win range, just above it. So I'm very impressed by the Magic and curious to see if they can get back to sort of the top of the Eastern Conference. Much like the Pistons, they're still one of those try-hard teams that I just believe in them to put in more effort from night to night when the grind of the NBA season wears on more teams. Justin, your number 3 or thoughts on the Magic, whatever you.
Tons of thoughts on the Magic, and maybe I'm biased talking to God. Sham God, he put out a book, and he's the assistant coach for the Magic, and then also talking to Stephen Cameron, which that interview has been completed, and you'll hear the season preview for the Magic, and I might bring some insight to why I picked them in number 2. I really like Paolo Banchero. I know he has some weaknesses, but I do believe this guy is the real deal, and especially having Desmond Bane. I know that was a risky move for what they gave up for him, but I really liked him at the number 2 spot. And I feel like the NBA, I think Steve Nash pointed this out with LeBron, other podcasts, really was put really in kind of a tailspin with the decision and having all these huge superstars. But now, which I think is better for the league, having teams built around 1 or 2 superstars and building around depth and strengths about a team. And I think that makes the league healthy overall, and it makes it exciting because you don't know what's going to happen compared to having these teams with like 5 Hall of Famers on it. And when you're facing a Cinderella team, is most likely going to be taken out. So I like the Magic in terms of what they're building. ESPN has them projected at 49.9 with their wins. ESPN Bet has them around 51.5 over under. So I do believe that the Magic are going to be at the number 2 seed. Is that going to really materialize in the playoffs? That's where I'm a little hesitant in terms of like their playoff run. But nevertheless, this season, I have them at number 2.
Awesome. So go ahead and give me your number 3 team then. We'll backtrack there.
I'm not sold on the Cavaliers. I have a number 3. I've never liked the Cavaliers. I like Donovan Mitchell. I don't hate on their roster, but they're good. ESPN has it to where with Darius Garland and Max Strus are going to be already hurt,
right,
coming into the season. So to me, I'm like, I don't know how much of a factor they're going to be with Lonzo Ball. I mean, he was with Chicago. I like Lonzo Ball when he's healthy, but he's not healthy. So to me, it's just like, what's going to be this team with all these health problems? Can Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen keep this team afloat? I do not know. Along with Evan Mobley as well. So,
and I gotta say, that's one of the things we didn't mention with the Bulls that I think was a smart move that they made in trading Lonzo Ball for Okoro. I think a guy who can contribute on the wing. That's a good move for the Bulls. I think they won that deal. So yeah, I have some of the same concerns with the Cavs, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll come back to you, but that's why I have them at number 2. I still think they're more talented than the Magic at this point, but we'll have to see how Bane contributes. I wanted to also say you're completely right with the Magic in that for so long, it's like when they would make it to the playoffs, then it was just kind of iso ball with Paolo Banchero on offense. It's going to be such a huge help that the full weight isn't on his shoulders anymore. He can still be that primary option, no doubt, but having Desmond Bane on there as sort of a release valve, is going to be so helpful to him and his growth, and just his ability to also conserve energy in playoff games and play more to his fullest at the right time. So we're in agreement on the Cavs. I have huge concerns about the first month of their season and what that's going to look like. And also, are they demoralized from how things ended up last season? I mean, you can't really fully blame a team when they go down because of all the injuries that piled up, but that's carrying into this season. And it's tough to be a 60-plus win team in the NBA. It's tough to do that back-to-back years. I don't see them as a 60-win team again this year. So the Cavs are at number 2. Did you want to say anything else about the Cavs there, Justin?
I didn't. We can move on.
So go ahead, give me your one and my number 1 pick as well.
Yeah.
Spoiler, it's the New York Knicks.
Yep.
Wow. Who thought we'd be here? Who thought we would be here with the Knicks at number 1? It's been a long time since I think anyone has projected the Knicks at number 1 for a conference standing. Justin, tell me why you're high on them, and it probably aligns with a lot of my thoughts on it too.
I am very worried about this pick, but I just believe in this roster and what they're able to do in the regular season. Now, the big question mark is they have a new coach, and Mike Brown. He's had some success, but it's been rocky compared to Thibodeau, which that was like a huge shock. So to me, if this team struggles, Mike Brown is gone. They're just underperforming, especially around, Christmas. I just can't imagine him staying there, especially with this roster. So ESPN has him projected at 47.2. ESPN Bet has him over under around 53.5 wins. James L. Edwards, the third of The Athletic, says, given that the Knicks were one of the most financially tight teams in the NBA offseason, adding 2 legitimate role players, Jordan Clarkson and Gushon Yabusele, is nothing to sneeze at, as New York needed depth this summer and got it in the form of a bench scorer and a utility forward. Neither signing is flashy, but on paper, it should booster a team that made the Eastern Conference Finals and struggled to get consistently off the bench. They re-signed Mikal Bridges. We mentioned the additions. And really, they lost Precious Achiuwa, Cameron Payne, PJ Tucker, and Dylan Wright. So to me, I just like this team a lot. I just think Jalen Brunson, I think, is still underrated to me as a star in this league. I think the question is health. I think the question, can this team remain healthy in the playoffs through the grind, right? Can they become a dominant force where they're not pushed into a 7-game series every single round? By the time they get to the finals, they're just depleted. And so I think that's my main issue with it. I think the Knicks will be able to kind of rest their guys and I think still be able to pull off wins throughout the regular season. I guess my question is, in terms of them being a championship contender, can they remain healthy through the playoffs and kind of take out teams kind of in the earlier rounds, or will they kind of struggle? I don't know. But at the way this roster is constructed, really, I know Karl Anthony Towns takes a lot of crap, and Mitchell Robinson too, but man, they played well in the playoffs in some spots. I just think if things go their way, they can win the title. I've always said this. Heaven help New York if they do. I do not want to be there if they happen to pull off the ultimate feat there. But I just think with the Knicks, if things break their way, they should be the number 1 seed heading into the playoffs this season.
Yeah. Obviously, I agree with a lot of those points, seeing as how I have them number 1. I don't have them as a 60-plus win team, though. I think they're going to be mid to high 50s. Yeah. I do think part of that will be exactly what you touched on. Like, they no longer have the curse of Tom Thibodeau or what have you, where he may be burning more minutes on those stars. I think Mike Brown is going to be a lot different with his rotations. And I think with the amount of high caliber talent that they have at the top of this roster, you should be able to piece together rotations where you don't always have to have those star players, those close to max contract guys out at the same time. You can really have a lot of fluidity with your rotations too, and seek a lot of creative options there to make sure that, hopefully they're not like playing Brunson 40 plus minutes a night, So I think this team is set up for success. The table has never been set better, at least in the past decade, maybe longer, for the New York Knicks. So I think they've got to capitalize on this. and get one of those top 3 seeds, get that home court advantage through at least the majority of the playoffs. And that, of course, for any team gives you the best chance to make it to the finals. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to do there. And I think it's a lukewarm hire, right? Getting Coach Brown. I really like Coach Brown as a person. I think everybody does. I think that's why he has this ability, this magnetism to bring teams together. But I do think it is sort of a safe hire as well with what they were able to do with all the timing. And I think he does have that experience around the league. He's been on a lot of different rosters. There have been the few situations where it's gone catastrophically bad, like thinking of that Lakers super team back in the early 2010s. But all in all, he's a pretty stabilizing presence, and I don't expect a big drop off in their performance. I would be pretty surprised to see that. I think they're going to stay competitive, but I think you're right in that because of the doubt around his hire and how this was set up, there may be a quick coaching change if things, I mean, if they're starting sub 500 after 20 games or so, I mean, that's going to be well under expectations for this team. So I'm curious to see how that goes. And of course, that stereotypical pressure of New York media, all those things, people are going to be angry pretty fast if this team isn't a competitor. But you and I obviously agree that they expect to be that. So the Knicks top our Eastern Conference predictions. What do you guys think? Who is your top team in the East? And what do you see? Where do you agree and disagree with our bottom 5, our play-in or low playoff teams, and our contenders? Who's a contender that we didn't mention that really should be in that category? Or are there outright teams? I mean, are the Bucks going to tank this year? It could go a lot of different ways in the East. So hopefully this analysis, I always enjoy this prediction, and it usually doesn't end up the way our lists pan out, right?
No.
So thank you all for making it to this part of the show. And I think before we sign off, I have to give my decision here, Justin. So, man, this is tough. This is tough. My decision, in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be logging on to my personal YouTube accounts, and I'm going to be subscribing to the Hoopsology YouTube channel. I'm taking my talents to Hoopsology subscriber. So that's my decision here, with respects to shout out to LeBron James on this. So that's decision 1.0. Who knows? Someday we'll have a decision 2.0 too. Maybe it'll be something of more substance. We'll see. Stay tuned to the show for maybe we'll have more decisions. Should we do like a decision every month or something? Right. I'm just kidding. Justin, always a pleasure. Thank you, listeners and subscribers, for staying tuned with us. We will, of course, be talking about the Western Conference soon here. We have a lot of great episodes that are dropping. So stay tuned to our feed, whether you're checking us out on the podcast front or on our YouTube channel. Ideally, both. We really appreciate it. And for Justin Goodrum, I'm Matt Thomas. We will catch you again soon. Peace out.
See you next time.